The Forbidden Zone. The crimson warning lights of Zara Vex's patrol ship cast eerie shadows across her scaled face as she navigated through the null sector. This region of space had been declared forbidden territory by the Caltharian High Command for over 3 decades. No ship was supposed to venture here, especially not alone. But Zara was different from other Caltharian scouts. Curiosity had always been her weakness, and today it would change everything. Her sensor array detected something that shouldn't exist in this dead zone of space. A ship, barely functioning, drifting near a cluster of asteroids like debris waiting to be claimed by the void. Zara's training screamed at her to report the contact and withdraw immediately. The null sector was off limits for good reason according to the High Command. Ancient weapons, unstable matter, and other dangers lurked in these reaches of space. But something about the ship's design made her pause. It wasn't Caltharian, that much was obvious. The hull was too angular, too crude by their standards. As she moved closer, her breath caught in her throat. The markings on the hull were unmistakable, even damaged as they were. Human script. A human vessel, here in the Forbidden Zone. Every fiber of her being told her to flee. From childhood, every Caltharian learned the same lessons about humans. They were savage destroyers, a plague upon the galaxy that consumed everything in their path. Stories of human brutality were woven into their culture like warnings passed down through generations. Humans burned worlds for pleasure, enslaved entire species, and showed no mercy to those who opposed them. The High Command had countless records of human atrocities, evidence of their inherent evil nature. Yet as Zara studied the damaged vessel through her view screen, she saw something that didn't match the stories. The ship was small, clearly not a warship. It bore the markings of what appeared to be a cargo hauler or transport vessel. More puzzling still, the damage pattern suggested the ship had been trying to avoid conflict, not start one. Scorch marks along the hull indicated weapons fire from behind, as if the vessel had been running from something rather than attacking. Her curiosity overrode her caution. Zara activated her ship's stealth systems and moved in for a closer look. As she approached, she detected faint life signs emanating from the human vessel. Someone was still alive in there, fighting against the inevitable in a ship that should have been a tomb hours ago. The airlock hissed as Zara prepared to board the alien vessel. Her scaled hands shook slightly as she checked her weapon for the 3rd time. Every instinct told her this was madness, but something deeper drove her forward. Perhaps it was the same curiosity that had led her to become a scout in the first place, always pushing boundaries, always seeking to understand rather than simply obey. The human ship's interior was a maze of corridors filled with strange machinery and unfamiliar scents. Emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly yellow glow, and the air recyclers wheezed with each breath they processed. Zara followed the life signs deeper into the ship, her weapon raised but her finger hesitant on the trigger. She found him in what appeared to be the engineering section, slumped over a control panel with tools scattered around him like a surgeon's instruments. The human was tall by Caltharian standards, with dark hair matted with blood and skin that had gone pale from blood loss. What struck her most was that even unconscious and clearly dying, his hands still gripped a welding torch. He had been trying to repair something, fighting to keep his ship alive even as his own life ebbed away. This was not the monster she had been and taught to fear. This was something else entirely. Marcus Chen's eyes fluttered open as consciousness returned in painful waves. The first thing he noticed was that he wasn't dead, which came as something of a surprise given the state of his ship's life support systems. The second thing he noticed was the figure standing over him, and that definitely hadn't been part of his expectations. A Caltharian. He recognized the species immediately from the briefings he'd studied before entering this sector of space. Tall, humanoid, with scales that shifted color based on emotion, and large, intelligent eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. This one's scales showed patterns of blue and silver, indicating caution mixed with curiosity if his xenobiology training was correct. "You're awake," the Caltharian said in accented but understandable standard. Her voice carried a melodic quality that human ears found pleasant. though Marcus knew better than to let his guard down. "I wasn't certain you would survive." Marcus tried to sit up and immediately regretted the decision as pain shot through his ribs. "I'm Marcus Chen, captain of the cargo vessel Persistence. I don't suppose you're here to help with repairs?" The question seemed to catch the Caltharian off guard. She tilted her head in a gesture that was almost endearingly curious. "I am Scout Zara Vex of the Caltharian Patrol Fleet. You are in forbidden space, human. This sector is off-limits to all vessels." "Yeah, well, I didn't exactly choose to be here," Marcus replied, gesturing to the sparking control panels around them. "Pirates jumped me 3 systems back. I managed to get away, but not before they did some serious damage to my engines. When I dropped out of hyperspace, this is where I ended up." Zara's scales shifted to deeper shades of blue, indicating increased caution. According to everything she had been taught, humans were master manipulators, capable of weaving lies so convincing that they could deceive even themselves. Yet something in this human's manner suggested honesty. His pain was genuine, his confusion about his location seemed real, and his focus appeared to be on his ship, rather than on her as a potential threat or victim. "What is your cargo?" she asked, keeping her weapon ready but not aimed directly at him. Marcus managed a weak smile. "Medical supplies, antibiotics, surgical equipment, vaccine cultures. I was running them to the colony on Zirion Prime. They've got a plague outbreak and need these supplies desperately." He paused, studying her face. "I don't suppose you'd be willing to help me get my engines running again. A lot of people are going to die if I don't get these supplies delivered." The request hit Zara like a physical blow. This human, supposedly one of the galaxy's greatest monsters, was asking for help to deliver medical supplies to save lives. It contradicted everything she had been taught about their nature. Humans were supposed to be selfish, violent, and destructive. They weren't supposed to risk their lives carrying medicine to distant colonies. "You lie," she said, though the words lacked conviction. Marcus shook his head slowly. "I've got the manifests in my personal files if you want to check. The cargo hold is sealed with biocontainment protocols, but the external scanners should confirm what's in there." He tried to stand again, this time managing to get to his feet despite obvious pain. "Look, I don't know what you've heard about humans, but right now I'm just a guy trying to do his job. People are dying while we waste time talking." Against every protocol and instinct, Zara found herself believing him. The way he moved, the pain in his eyes when he spoke about the colony, the casual way he offered to let her verify his cargo, none of it matched the profile of a dangerous savage. This human seemed more concerned about strangers on a distant world than his own survival. "I cannot help you," she said finally, though the words felt wrong as soon as they left her mouth. "Humans are dangerous. My people have strict protocols about contact." Marcus nodded as if he had expected as much. "I understand. Different species, different rules." He turned back to the control panel he had been working on. "Thanks for checking on me, though. Most people would have just left me to die out here." The simple gratitude in his voice was like a dagger to Zara's conscience. She watched as he picked up his tools and began working again, his movements methodical despite his injuries. Blood seeped through his shirt, but he ignored it completely. His entire focus was on the repairs, on getting his ship running again so he could complete his mission. This was not the behavior of a monster. This was the behavior of someone driven by purpose, by a desire to help others at the expense of his own safety and comfort. As she watched him work, Zara began to question everything she had been taught about humans. If the stories were true, why was this one so different? If humans were truly the savage destroyers of legend, what was Marcus Chen doing with a cargo hold full of medical supplies? For the first time in her life, Scout Zara Vex began to wonder if her people might be wrong about something fundamental. The thought terrified her almost as much as it intrigued her. Breaking protocol. 3 hours later, Zara was still aboard the human vessel, though she couldn't quite explain why to herself. She had told Marcus she couldn't help, but somehow she found herself handing him tools and holding components steady while he worked. Her training screamed at her that this was a violation of every protocol in the Caltharian military handbook, but her conscience had apparently overridden her conditioning. Marcus worked with a focus that bordered on obsession, his hands steady dusty despite the pain that was clearly affecting him. What impressed Zara most was his refusal to give up. The ship's main engine was damaged beyond conventional repair, the life support system was running on emergency power, and the navigation computer had been fried by an electrical surge. Any rational being would have activated a distress beacon and waited for rescue. Instead, Marcus was attempting to rebuild a functioning propulsion system using spare parts and jury-rigged components that shouldn't have been able to work together. He had somehow managed to create a makeshift plasma coupling using medical tubing, a cargo container seal, and what appeared to be pieces of the ship's food processor. It was either genius or madness, and Zara wasn't entirely sure which. "This cannot possibly function," she said, as she watched him connect the improvised coupling to the engine's power distribution network. Marcus grinned, and despite everything she had been taught about human facial expressions, Zara found the expression oddly reassuring rather than threatening. "You'd be surprised what you can accomplish when failure isn't an option. I once kept a transport running for 6 months using nothing but spare parts and sheer stubbornness." "But the physics," Zara began. "The physics are more like guidelines than absolute rules," Marcus interrupted gently. "Sometimes you can convince the universe to bend a little if you ask nicely and have the right leverage." He paused in his work to look at her directly. "Why are you helping me? Your people and mine aren't exactly on friendly terms." The question caught Zara off guard because she didn't have a good answer. Everything in her upbringing told her to report the human presence and let the military handle the situation. Yet here she was, actively assisting someone her government would classify as an enemy. "I do not know," she admitted quietly. "This is not what I was taught humans were like." "What were you taught?" Marcus asked as he returned to his work. Zara hesitated, unsure how much she should reveal. "That your species are destroyers. That you consume worlds and show no mercy to those who oppose you. That you are driven by greed and violence above all else." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his hands continuing their work even as he processed her words. "I won't lie to you. There are humans who fit that description, just like there are probably Caltharians who don't live up to the best ideals of your species. But most of us are just trying to make a living and help our families, same as everyone else in the galaxy." "The High Command has evidence of human atrocities," Zara said, though her conviction was wavering. "I'm sure they do," Marcus replied sadly. "Just like I could show you evidence of terrible things done by Caltharians, or Vortans, or any other species you care to name. The question is whether that evidence represents the whole truth, or just part of it." Before Zara could respond, Marcus's improvised engine coupling sparked to life. The ship's power systems hummed with renewed energy, and the life support systems switched from emergency mode to normal operation. It should have been impossible, but somehow the human had managed to bring his dying ship back to life using nothing but determination and creative problem-solving. "Impossible," Zara breathed, staring at the functioning systems in amazement. "Improbable," Marcus corrected with another grin, "but not impossible. Now comes the real test." He moved to the navigation station and began plotting a course to Zirian Prime. "I can probably get about 6 hours of flight time out of these repairs, maybe 8 if I'm lucky. That should be enough to reach the colony." Zara watched as he prepared his ship for departure, and something cold settled in her stomach. Once Marcus left, she would be alone again with her doubts and questions. Worse, she would have to decide whether to report this encounter to her superiors. The sensible thing would be to let him go and pretend this meeting had never happened. But she found herself reluctant to say goodbye to the first being who had challenged her worldview in years. "The colony you mentioned," she said as Marcus finished his pre-flight preparations. "How many people are at risk?" Marcus paused, his expression growing somber. About 40,000 colonists, mostly families who were terraforming the world. The plague hit them 3 weeks ago, and their medical facilities weren't equipped to handle it. Without these supplies, the mortality rate will be close to 80%. The numbers hit Zara like a physical blow. 40,000 lives hung in the balance, and this single human was risking everything to save them. It flew in the face of everything she had been taught about human nature. A true savage would have taken the valuable medical supplies and sold them to the highest bidder. A destroyer would have used the plague as an opportunity to claim the terraformed world for himself. Marcus Chen was doing neither. He was simply trying to save lives, even at the cost of his own safety. "Your government," she said slowly. "Do they know about your mission?" Marcus shook his head. "This is a private relief effort. The official channels would have taken months to approve a mission, and these people don't have months." A group of merchants, doctors, and volunteers pooled resources to buy the supplies and hire transport. "I volunteered to make the run because I have experience in dangerous sectors." "You volunteered," Zara repeated, trying to understand the concept. In Caltharian society, such missions would be assigned by the authorities. The idea of someone voluntarily risking their life for strangers was almost incomprehensible to her. "That's what people do when they care about something bigger than themselves," Marcus said simply. He moved toward the ship's exit, clearly expecting her to leave before he departed. "Thank you for your help, Zara. I know you took a risk by not reporting me immediately." Zara followed him toward the airlock, her mind racing. She was about to make a decision that would change her life forever, though she didn't fully realize it yet. "Marcus," she called as he prepared to seal the airlock behind her. "Yes?" "The Null Sector. It's patrolled by my people. If you follow the standard shipping lanes, they will intercept you before you reach Zirion Prime." Marcus frowned. "Are you saying there's no way through?" Zara took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would constitute treason against her own government. "I am saying that there are routes through the asteroid fields that our patrols avoid. They are dangerous, but a skilled pilot might be able to navigate them." Understanding dawned in Marcus's eyes. "You're offering to guide me." "I am offering to ensure that medical supplies reach people who need them," Zara corrected, though they both knew it amounted to the same thing. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, and Zara could see him weighing the implications. "If your people find out, what happens to you?" "I will face the consequences of my choices," she replied, surprised by her own certainty, "just as you are facing the consequences of yours." For the first time since she had known him, Marcus looked uncertain. "I can't ask you to risk your career, maybe your life, for strangers you've never met." "You are not asking," Zara said firmly. "I am choosing, just as you chose to risk everything for the people on Zirion Prime." Marcus studied her face for several heartbeats, then slowly extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, Zara reached out and grasped it. His skin was warm and rough from manual labor, completely unlike the cold, calculating touch she had been taught to expect from humans. "Partners?" Marcus asked. "Partners," Zara agreed, sealing both their fates with a single word. As they began plotting their course through the deadly maze of asteroids and patrol routes, Zara realized that she was no longer the same Caltharian who had entered this forbidden sector of space. She had encountered something that challenged everything she believed about the universe, and she had chosen to embrace that challenge rather than run from it. The human beside her was indeed damned, but perhaps not in the way her people believed. Perhaps he was damned to always do the right thing, even when it was dangerous, even when it was impossible, even when it meant standing alone against the darkness. And perhaps, Zara thought as she watched him work with tireless determination, that was the kind of damnation the galaxy needed more of.